Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give should be the truth and the whole truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please lower your hand. You can have a seat. State and spell your first and last name.
Trisha Blissett, Trisha Blissitt.
And Ms. Blissett, how are you employed?
At Gym Tech for Kids.
And how long have you been with Gym Tech?
9 years.
And what are your duties as an employee with Gym Tech?
I am the office manager.
And what does that mean? What all do you have to do as the office manager?
I take care of all the customers as they come in, the parents and the kids. I give them their trial classes. I give them their waivers, their parent information to fill out. I take their money, pretty much everything.
So all the back office stuff. Are you involved in teaching any of the classes or coaching any of the kids that attend Gym Tech?
No.
And I'm going to show you what's being marked as exhibit number 190. You can flip through and let me know if you recognize that.
Yes.
And what is State's Exhibit 190?
I'm sorry.
What is State's Exhibit 190?
This is, I had to sign it to say that all this information was correct and had not been tampered with or anything.
And is all the information that you provided to our office part of that packet that I just handed you?
Yes.
Okay. Has there been any changes or deletions to any of that information?
No.
State would ask the State's Exhibit 190 be admitted into evidence. And, thank you. And Ms. Blissett, when someone comes to Gym Tech, what happens if they are looking to join Gym Tech?
The first thing I do is give them a waiver for them to fill out, because before a child can enter the floor, they have to fill out the waiver. And then if they decide that they're going to sign up, then I give them the parent information stuff where they fill all that out.
So the parent information and the waiver, is there anything else that has to be filled out?
Um,
And at some point in 2015, did you come into contact with Jennifer Rosenbaum?
yes.
And what occasion did you have to come into contact with her?
She came up and she asked me if she could do a trial class. And I said yes. I gave her the waiver. She went out to the gym, and I was sitting in there, and I was like, I never got the waiver back. And so then I went out to the gym, and I asked her where it was, and she said that she wasn't sure if the little girl was going to do the, Layla was going to do the class or not.
Let me back you up. Was Ms. Rosenbaum, did she have a child participating at Gym Tech?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall who that child was?
Millie.
And do you recall when she signed up?
Like it's the end of September.
And I'm going to show you what's part of State's packet number 191. What are we looking at in State's 191? What form is this as part of that packet?
That is the student enrollment form. That's what I give them after they do their trial if they decide that they are definitely going to sign up.
Okay. And what's the date on that form?
September 21st, 15.
So would that have been the date that she did a trial class?
She could have done the trial class that day. Times the parents will go ahead and fill them out and give them to me that day, and then sometimes they'll return them. But that's more than likely the day that she did the trial, because that was the first day that I believe that we have a payment from her.
And what name was the child registered under?
Millie Rosenbaum.
Did you have any knowledge that of the name of Millie Place?
No,
And who fills out this form?
the parent.
And down at the bottom where it talks about emergency contact, what does that contain? What is that talking about?
That's just like the person that you call if something were to happen to the child, or if they didn't get picked up from class and you needed to call somebody, or couldn't get in touch with the parent.
And does it contain any other information in regards to insurance?
I don't believe that one does. I believe the other one does, maybe.
Under the emergency contact portion.
Oh yeah, like if we need to transport them, if they get hurt, yes.
And according to this document, who was the insurance provider for Millie at that time?
Jennifer Rosenbaum.
And under what insurance company?
Medicaid.
And at that time, after September the 21st, was Millie in fact enrolled at Gym Tech?
Yes.
And what classes was she taking at Gym Tech?
She was taking one of our preschool classes.
And do you know when those classes took place?
Back then, I believe we had them on Mondays and maybe Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
You said Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm.
Would the child, if she was attending those classes, go to every one of those days?
No, they come to one class once a week. And her day was on a Monday.
And do you recall what time that class was?
It was I don't know, not exactly. Mm.
And I'm showing another part of state's 190. And can you tell me what this is that we're looking at?
That is the waiver form that they have to fill out before they can get on the floor.
And was this form filled out?
For Millie?
Yes, for Billy.
Yes.
Okay, and what day was that filled out?
September 21st, 2015.
And for the classes, you indicated that you handled the billing as well.
Correct.
And how much did it cost to attend these classes?
$60 a month, and there was a $40 registration fee.
And was payment made for Millie to attend Gym Tech?
Yes.
I'm showing you another part of state's exhibit number 1. And what is in this form that we're looking at here?
That's our statements that we have.
And what child is this dealing with?
Millie.
And can you tell me when was the first charge made for the account?
September 21st, 2015.
And what was the charge for September the 21st of 2015?
That $55 is the $40 registration fee, and we had like one class left in September, and so that's a charge of $15, and so then that was what that was for.
And
The
the second charge?
The $7 was for a T-shirt.
And the next charge was when?
September 28th. That would have been like her October payment.
And the charge after that?
November 1st. That was for tuition, $60.
And the next one?
The 15 was for a leotard that they wear when they do gymnastics.
And then the final one?
That was December's tuition.
Okay. And was that amount actually received for December the 1st?
No,
And why not, if you know?
I don't know. They just didn't pay it. She wasn't coming any longer.
Okay. And you talked about the roll. Are you in charge of keeping the roll as well?
The coaches keep.
The coaches keep the roll?
Coaches take the roll.
Is the roll kept as part of your records for Gym Tech?
Yes.
And did you provide a copy of that, the roll for Millie, the classes that she attended?
Yes.
Was Millie signed up for this class?
Yes.
And what day is this on?
Monday,
And what time?
4 to 4:55.
And who makes the indications or notations as to whether or not the child attends?
The coaches.
So any marks on this, would you have made it or would it have been the coach?
The coach.
And same with the horseshoe states exhibit number 190. What class is this dealing with?
That's the same class, just a new roll sheet.
Now the top it says class. What does that mean?
That's just the name of our classes, our preschool classes.
And who was Millie's coach during the time that she was enrolled at Gym Tech?
Natalie Harrington.
Now, was there a second child that was with Ms. Rosenbaum when she would attend Gym Tech?
Yes.
And who was that child?
Layla.
And at any time, was Layla enrolled in classes at Gym Tech?
No.
And did you check your paperwork in order to determine whether or not you had any registration paperwork for Laila
Yes.
Daniel? And did you have any paperwork for Laila Daniel?
No.
At any point in time, was there a discussion regarding Layla participating in the classes?
Yes.
Do you recall when that was?
Like October 2015.
And who did you have that discussion with?
Jennifer.
And can you tell me what happened during that discussion?
Yeah, she asked if she could do a trial class, and so I said yes. And so that's when I gave her the waiver and asked her to fill it out.
And did she in fact fill that waiver out?
No.
What happened on that day in regards to Layla doing a trial class?
Okay. When I gave her the waiver and I asked her to fill it out, and then she didn't return it to me. So then I went out into the gym and asked her about it. She said she wasn't sure if she was going to take the class because she had been complaining of a hurt leg, and so she wasn't sure if she was going to take it. And I said, well, if she does the class and she goes on the floor, you have to give me that waiver. I have to have it. And so she said, okay. And then I just went back into the office.
And did you ever get that waiver back from her?
No.
Do you recall what date that was?
Not the exact date, no.
If I show you a piece of paper, would that help to refresh?
Probably.
This is the final page of state's exhibit number 90. You know,
October 19th.
after, did you see the defendant, Jennifer Rosenbaum, after that class on the 19th?
No.
Okay. And did you ever discuss whether or not Layla had actually gone out and did the trial class with her?
No.
Okay. Did you at some point find out whether or not Layla had been on the mats at Gym Tech on that day?
No.
When was the next time that you spoke with Ms. Rosenbaum?
I believe maybe the following week or that. She asked me, I guess on the 19th, if I could fill out some paperwork to invoice her so that she could go to DFAX to see if they would pay if she decided to take classes.
And did you do an invoice for her?
I did.
Okay. I'm showing you the final exhibit number 190. Is that the invoice?
Yes.
And can you just walk us through what all of this means on this invoice?
Yeah, that would be the $40 registration, the last class for one class for October, and then 6 months worth of classes. And I was sent to send it to DFAX, or she was going to pick it up and take it to them.
Did she ever pick it up?
No.
Did you ever send it to DFAX?
No.
Did Layla ever come in and begin to take classes at Gym Tech?
No.
Do you guys have what's called open play at Gym Tech?
Yes.
And what is that?
That is just an open gym where they come in with their parent and they just kind of get to have free time in the gym, run around playing, and the parent is with them at all times.
Okay. And when, in 2015, did you guys have open play?
We had those on like Mondays and Thursday mornings,
When you say morning, what time in the morning?
10:30 to 11:30.
And when a parent wanted to come in and participate in open play, did they have to fill out anything?
Yes, everybody that comes in, whether it's a birthday party or anything, but any child that comes into the gym that is going to get on the floor has to sign the waiver.
And did you, to your knowledge, did Millie Rosenbaum Place or Laila Daniel ever participate in open play at Gym Tech?
No.
Okay. And how do you know that?
I went back through all my waivers, and I never saw their name on anything.
Are you familiar if a child is ever injured at Gym Tech, what is the process and procedure of handling that situation?
We have an injury report, and all of our coaches know that they have to fill that out and give it to the parent to sign, and then we keep a copy of it in our pocket.
Okay. And I'm showing you the final page with some part of states number, exhibit number 190. Is this the form that you're speaking of?
Yes.
And if a form of that nature was filled out for a child at Gym Tech, who would get that form and who would keep that form?
They would give it to me, and I would file it.
Okay. And did you ever receive any reports of an accidental injury regarding Millie Rosenbaum Place or Laila Daniel?
No.
When the next time, when was it after the October the 19th conversation with Ms. Rosenbaum? Do you recall the next time you saw her?
That was probably around the beginning of November, like the 2nd November maybe.
Okay. And did you have any conversation with her at that time?
Yes.
And
that was, she bought a Leo, and I talked to her about the Leo that she found.
when she came on November the 2nd, did you see Millie or Layla with her at that time?
I saw Layla. The children usually the parents will come see me, and the kids usually just run on back to their class.
And when you saw Layla, what did you observe about her on November the 2nd?
She was holding her, and she had a pink cast on her leg.
Did you inquire about how she ended up with the cast on?
I did not, but our owner talked to her about it.
At any point, did Ms. Rosenbaum indicate to you that Layla had been hurt while at Gym Tech?
No.
Nothing further at this time.
Ma'am?
Excuse me, did you look up the forms under Laila Rosenbaum?
I did both.
And it's your testimony, as you sit here today, that that invoice was not given to Jennifer, correct? Was given to Jennifer, I mean.
The invoice?
Yes.
I don't recall ever giving it to her.
But it's possible you did.
Maybe, but I don't remember doing it.
And there are little slides in your gym, are they not? Short slides on the ground? Mm-hmm. And it's fair to say that kids that come and watch their siblings play may wander around and play on some of the equipment.
No, if they're not in a class, they are not allowed on the floor.
But sometimes they do that anyway, don't they? And parents
No.
go with them, and so that's never happened.
Not if they're not in class. No.
Never happened in your entire time.
If they walk out there, our coaches get them. They know that parents. We're very strict about that.
So let me show you what I've marked as Defendant's Exhibit 123. Let's see if you can identify that.
Mm-hmm. That is a coach with a student.
And who's the student?
That may be Layla. I didn't see the kids a lot, or Millie. I just never, because I'm in the office. I know who majority of the parents are, but like I said, the kids always just go straight to class and half time I don't know who they are.
So you don't see what happens in the gym. You're in the office, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So if a parent and a...
I mean, I'm all over the place. I'm in and out of the gym.
But so you're not constantly at the gym, correct?
Not constantly, no.
So it's possible that a child got on the floor and you wouldn't know about it.
Well, they could get on there, but our coaches are going to tell them to get off.
But you can't assure us that that actually happened, can you? That the coach actually did come and that Layla did not get on the slide by herself or with...
Yeah, she could have done it and they didn't see it, but as soon as they see a child over there, they're going to get them.
But they're handling class, right?
Right, but they will send somebody over there, another coach that's not doing anything, like a
If they
floor
see
manager
it.
or something. Mm-hmm.
This time, Your Honor, I would tender into the record Defendant's Exhibit 123 and ask to publish.
No objection.
You have the lights. Now, in that picture, there are 2 levels of bars, are there not?
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what the heights are of those bars?
I do not.
You don't. That ladder is a Jacob's ladder, correct?
Yeah, the ladder is for the team students.
But that ladder is out there, correct? It's accessible, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yeah.
And what do you have on the floor? Is that hard plastic like we see at nursery schools and that sort of thing?
The squares, yes.
The squares that they just piece in together?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they're not necessarily soft, they're firm, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yeah, they're pretty soft, but they're firm too. Mm-hmm.
And it's correct, isn't it? Would you know if Layla used to sit on the bench or whether she ran around? Would you know that?
I would not know that for every single time she came in there.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
Did you ever observe Layla inside that gym area?
No.
And those mats, is that plastic or what are they made of?
The colored squares?
Yes, ma'am.
They're like the little foam mats that you can get like at Sam's or Walmart or whatever.
Thank you. Nothing further.
If I could just have one moment, please. Let me ask you about those dates that you had written down from Millie Rosenbaum. Attendance was taken by the coaches, correct?
Correct.
And in fact, November 19th and November 16th, November 9th and November 16th, Millie was not at the, correct?
I don't know. I didn't memorize the.
Okay, let's see if this helps refresh your recollection.
Correct.
Isn't it true, Ms. Blissett, that November 9th, gym was canceled?
I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll see if this refreshes your recollection.
Okay, that would have been the open gym in the morning time because
But that would have been the gym
just the morning class, not the evening classes.
due to the cold weather, correct?
Because sometimes when it gets so cold and by 10:30, 9:30 in the morning,
It's not warm
it's not warm enough for the little ones to come in there.
And so you said on November 9th, your heat was not in working condition, correct? Isn't that what
It
you
was
sent out
not.
a Facebook notice? Isn't that correct?
I don't know if it wasn't working or if it just had not had time to warm up.
Let's see if this refreshes your recollection.
Well, this is November 16th, November the 8th. It doesn't say the 9th.
Well, isn't the one on November the 8th talking about tomorrow being November the 9th?
Okay, yeah. Hmm.
Okay, so does it...
So it says it wasn't working, and so that's why they closed for open gym.
Okay. And so if somebody didn't want their children to be in a cold, unheated building, they wouldn't come, correct?
Correct.
That's why you sent out this notice.
Right.
And on November 16th, you sent out the notice saying the heat is still not working, correct?
Yes.
So if a person did not want their children in the cold, they would not come on 11/16 either, would they?
Right.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
You can step down. The objections to this please. All right, and you're free to go. Just an appropriate breaking point for you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a lunch break now. We'll see you all back here at 1:15. Thank you.
Together, and then underneath, if you were on a bar, you would have another mat up underneath that bar on top of those mats as well.
It'll show you. It states exhibit 191. Do you see kind of that setup where you're talking about the bars and the mats?
Yeah, so if you look at this bar right here, that's about a 4-inch mat that is up underneath that bar. And the other bar is probably about a 1 to 2 inch mat up underneath that bar. And then of course you can see the length of the bar is making sure that it's covered enough in front of the bar and covered enough behind the bar.
And what about any other, do you know what the thickness of those mats are that are utilized?
The one is a 4-inch mat, and the other one's about a 2-inch mat.
Okay. And what about those foam puzzle pieces?
The puzzle pieces are probably only about maybe 1 inch thick.
And let me ask you in regards to taking precautions, how does the setup for a class go? Does it, once it's set up, does it remain the same or does that change? And who does it and how?
Typically, it stays, the setup at the gym stays the same with the mats. The coaches, we do 7-to-1 ratio, so no more than 7 students to 1 coach. They are set up in rotation circuits, so there's a lesson plan for each week, and they receive that lesson plan, and there's a circuit. So, for instance, you took it down. There would be.
Back up.
Okay. So if you see right there, that's a beam circuit. So if where the higher beam is would be a coach would be there because that's a higher, more difficult skill.
And I'm going to hand you this.
Sorry.
Press that little button and it makes that little red laser come up.
Okay.
Press it at the top.
Oh, press it. Oh, thank you. Okay. Not sure if I have it right here. There we go. Okay, so this is a higher beam. So this is going to be a coach-assisted skill. Meaning the coach is going to be right here, assisting the athlete across the beam so that there's no injury, just because this beam is raised up a little bit higher. So you can catch if there was a fall or anything like that. And then they're going to go down over here and they're going to do another skill on this beam. And you can't see in the picture, but there's another beam that runs across that way and then the beam that comes this way. So the coach would be here assisting the child across, watching this area, and they would go around and come back up the stairs and go. That would be a circuit, a station. Okay.
And you said your ratio is 7-to-1.
7-to-1.
And what about the training, any other safety precautions that you take as far as the gym equipment is concerned?
As far as the gym equipment is concerned, it's just always making sure that the coaches know to come in, make sure the mats are placed properly, the beams are where they are, the mats are up underneath the beam, checking the bar. Usually coaches aren't adjusting the bar. Typically it's set up for their class for that circuit for the day.
And how often are those safety precautions taken as far as making sure the bars are locked, the mats are in place? How often does that happen?
Every class, every day as they come in.
Okay. And what about training for your staff? What type of training do you provide for your coaches?
So I'm preschool fundamentals certified trained in preschool fundamentals 1 and 2. And then I have a partner that works with me that is a national judge under USAG. So we've also attended the World Congress training that USA Gymnastics offers. And then we bring that in with our staff. We've also had from time to time, they come to our facility and have offered training at our facility, which is preschool fundamentals 1 and 2 certification, proper ways to coach, safety certifications, those type things.
And are you familiar with someone by the name of Natalie Harrington?
I am.
Would she have gone through that training as part of being an employee with your gym?
Yeah, so she would have gone through training. We start training, we do a full extensive training in the summer before we start our fall session. And we do another coaches staff meeting. We do training again, usually around December before we go into our springtime training. And then we've also had, like I said, I believe Natalie did participate in when we had the outside certified coaches come in and they do where you receive a certificate for participating in a preschool fundamental training class.
And are you familiar with Michaela Stone?
Yes, ma'am.
And who's Michaela Stone?
Michaela's one of my coaches as well.
Would she have also gone through this training that you just described?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me ask you, in regards to injuries at your gym, have you ever had occasion to have a child injured at the gym?
Yes, we've had children to be injured.
And what is the process and procedure if a child is injured?
There is a injury report, and they are to fill out the injury report, and then the injury report has to also be signed by the parent and the coach.
And when you talk about injuries, how many injuries would you say you've had at your gym?
Well, it depends on what type of injury you're asking.
Let me start there. What types of injuries have you seen happen with kids at your gym?
We've seen anything from a knee scrape to I've seen more injuries with our competitive gymnasts that have actually had like a break. Talking more on competitive side.
Let's talk about your kids that are in your mommy and tot class.
Yes.
Any injuries there, and if so, what type?
No injuries in a parent talk class.
And what about the 3 to 4 year old class?
3-year-old 4 class, nothing other than maybe a knee scrape or a fall down and maybe a child complaint. But even if it's a fall and a complaint that's made by the child, or they say, oh, I hurt my arm, or I hurt this, I hurt that, the coaches are still required to fill out an injury report because we can't tell if there's an injury there or not specifically. So they're still required to document it down so that we have it on file. And we're required to do that by our insurance as well.
Okay. And when, as far as your mommy and me class, how often would those classes be run at the gym? Let's say back in 2015 specifically. How many?
During that time, we only had one parent and talk class.
And on what days was that class held?
I believe on Monday we had a parent and talk class on Mondays.
And if a parent was interested in having their child attend, what procedures did they have to go through to participate in the class, even for the mommy and tot class?
Okay, so we offer free trial classes. Anytime you come in for a class, you have to check in with the front office, sign a waiver form, give your information, and then they can participate in a class.
And I think we talked about putting in these bars for a parent and tot class, these bars here. Would kids be participating or be involved in using that particular equipment?
Yes, they could be. So at a parent and tot, really actually a child's hand cannot really fully grip around the bar. But what we do is teach them to do a reach to the bar and try to grip onto the bar. And then we would have them like do something as maybe try to pull their knees up. And we usually instruct and show the parents that they're just going to try to lift their feet up off of the bar, which is kind of working that core area. Most children at that age are still trying to figure out how to use their core. So that's really what that is for. We also would show the parent that they could put their arm up underneath the toddler and just kind of try to do a swinging motion. But you really have to hold on to them because their hands are not large enough to fully grip around that bar.
Do you know what would the height of those bars be set at for a parent and tot class?
Somewhere around 40 to 45 inches from the ground up. If you went from the bar up, or it would depend on the mat. So if the mat's under there, it might be around 42 inches with the mat. So it depends on if you're counting it from the floor where the base is to the top of the bar, or if you're going from the mat to the top of the bar.
So let's say from the mat.
I'd say 40 to 45 inches.
Okay.
Probably somewhere in there.
From the mat to the bar.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the goal is to make sure that the child can stand on their feet and hold the bar from their feet. Nothing above.
And are children or parents allowed to, let me ask you, are children allowed to be out on the mats or on the floor or any equipment without a coach or a staff member from Gym Tech?
No, ma'am. They must be enrolled in a class in order to be out on the floor.
Have you had occasions where kids would run out, say they're there with a sibling, and run out and get on the equipment or anything of that nature?
Of course we have. And all the coaches and staff are instructed to immediately let them know that if they're not involved in a class, you must step off of the floor. And that's a continued process and watch at the gym. I usually have several coaches there, so everybody knows, if you don't see them actively involved in a class, then they shouldn't be just freely running around the gym.
Would parents and children have access to the inside of the gym and be on the mats without a staff member being inside that gym area?
No, ma'am, they should not be.
And in 2015, did you have free play?
We had open gym play.
Open gym, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And to your knowledge, do you know if Millie Place, Rosenbaum, or Laila Daniel ever participated in your free play or open play?
Not of my knowledge. I didn't have any record of either one of them attending open gym play.
Okay. Do you recall ever having any interaction with Laila Daniel?
Yes, I do.
And what about Millie Rosenbaum Place?
Not any really interaction with Millie other than just visually seeing her in a class.
And were you working on October the 19th of 2015?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, what day of the week was that?
Monday.
And was Millie place, I guess, enrolled at the gym.
Yes.
And to your understanding, did you ever meet the defendant, Jennifer Rosenbaum?
Yes.
And when Millie would come to the gym, who would she be brought by?
As far as I knew, she was brought by her mom. Yes.
And when you say as far as I knew she was brought by her mom, what do you mean by that?
Jennifer.
Okay. And would Laila Daniel be present during those times?
Yes. Yes.
Did you ever have an opportunity to observe Millie Place while she was involved in class when she was there?
Only for briefly, between walking in the gym and around and visually looking over and then going to my office. I didn't really sit in on the actual classes. So usually I was coming into work during that time and would just be going straight to the office and wouldn't be visually seeing what was going on, or kids in classes or parents on the bench, that type of thing.
What about Laila Daniel? Did you ever have an opportunity to observe her during the times that Millie would be in class?
I didn't observe her like in the gym.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I mean. Let me ask you this.
I didn't observe her in a class ever.
Okay. Did you ever observe her in the inside of the gym area where class would be going on?
No.
And were you involved actively teaching these classes during the time that they would be going on?
No.
Do you recall ever getting any reports in regards to Millie injuring herself at Gym Tech?
No, ma'am.
Was ever any injury reports filled out?
No, ma'am.
And what about Laila Daniel? What was your interaction with her?
I met her when Jennifer had come to the office inquiring about wanting, my office manager, Tricia, had called me asking if it was okay to do a 6-month out billing. She wanted my approval if that was okay to do that. She explained there was a defect situation, and would that be okay? And I said, yes, absolutely, that would be fine. I came in one day and Jennifer was there trying to handle the paperwork with Tricia in the office, and that was my first encounter with her and Layla at that time.
Do you recall what day that was?
I believe it was November 2nd.
And where were you at when you encountered the defendant, Jennifer?
So I was actually in my office, so there's a window, so you have to go out of the office to the main lobby area, and there was just a window there, and she was trying to handle paperwork with Tricia, and I could just heard Layla crying during that time, and I was on the opposite side.
When you say it's a window outside, is I guess the gym area where kids will be having class or practicing, is that in a separate area from where the office area is?
Yes, ma'am, separate area. So we have a large lobby with some offices within that lobby, and then we have separate doors that enter actually into the training facility.
And you said that you observed the defendant, Jennifer Rosenbaum, with Layla.
Yes, ma'am.
And what was Layla doing when you observed her?
She was crying, just crying and really upset, and she was trying to handle business, and I just naturally kind of take the kids, and I know as a parent you're trying to take care of some things, your child's crying, I just kind of went around the corner to calm or comfort or cheer her up.
And what happened when you went around the corner to cheer Layla up?
I went around the corner and noticed she, had a cast on, and she was just kind of continuously crying, and I just said, oh my goodness, and it's okay, and I said, wow, what happened? That's a big cast, just kind of talking to her like that, and asked, and I didn't really get a reply just other than, oh, she's just upset because the doctor said she needs to walk on it, and she's mad because she doesn't want to walk.
Who were you asking about what happened? Were you talking to Layla when you asked about what happened, or were you talking to the defendant?
I was kind of looking at both, and kind of looked up, at the mom, and she was talking to the office manager, and then just turned around and gave me the reply and just said she's mad, she doesn't want to walk on it, but the doctor said she needs to get used to walking on it, and she spoke that directly to me.
Did she ever mention that the injury had occurred at Gym Tech?
No.
What happened after, I guess, were you able to calm Layla down?
A little bit. She kind of calmed down a little bit, and she and I were kind of talking, and I was just trying to play with her, and Jennifer, I guess, finished up her paperwork and got all that done, and, explained, I guess she was not going to be doing any classes or whatever, and then I just said, I introduced myself to her. I said, I'm Maria Matheson, I'm the owner, so if you ever need anything, just let me know. Excited you guys are here, and that was pretty much it.
And at the point that you introduced yourself as the owner, did she ever mention about the injury of Layla occurring at the gym?
No, ma'am.
Where was Millie during this interaction? Was she there?
She would have been in class.
At some point, did, I guess, my office come out and ask you to do a video of a mommy and tot class for us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 197. Do you recognize that?
Yes, ma'am.
How are you able to recognize it?
I initialed it the moment that they did the video and did the disc, and they asked me to view it, and then I initialed and dated it.
Were there any changes or deletions or modifications to it?
No, ma'am.
That's the State's Exhibit 197 being admitted into evidence for demonstrative purposes.
So objection would be whether it was done during the time frame of 2015, it wasn't that we object to.
I can lay a little bit further foundation. When we asked you to do this demo, was it in conjunction with how class was run in 2015?
Yes, ma'am.
Had y'all made any changes about how you run a parent-taught class since 2015?
No, ma'am.
I'd ask that State's Exhibit 197 be admitted.
It's admitted.
Thank you. May it be published.
Admitted.
We're trying to work on the sound. Can you tell me what we're looking at in that first video, Ms. Madison?
So that's a parent-assisted class. So if you can see, that's the parent there helping. So she's reaching to the bar, and then the parent's trying to assist her into grabbing the block with her legs, and there again to try to lift it with her legs or work on that core strength. But there again, like you can see, if they weren't able to reach the bar, there would be another mat up underneath them so they could actually reach up to the bar. But you want the child to be able to reach onto that bar and hold. And there again, the parent's right there with them, assisting them through that skill.
And when you did the demo, did you do a whole class, or how did you go about doing these demonstrations for us?
This was actually a class that was in progress that was videoed.
And before you talked about doing various different, you said the beams, that was a beam cycle. Would the kids go through the same cycle every class?
So usually they're going to hit anywhere from 3 to 4 what I would call stations at a time. So like a beam station, a bar station, and like a tumble station. Okay, so each station they're going to spend maybe 10 minutes at a station, depending on how the class is going with the children listening and following direction and all that. As they get a little anxious, then we might move on to another station to redirect them.
And I guess, do you do the same stations for every class, or does it change from week to week as to what you're...
We do have lesson plans, so typically every 2 weeks the lesson plan will change.
And who, I guess, who comes up with that lesson plan?
So under, there is called a hands-on training where you can actually purchase flip preschool training. You can actually purchase lesson plans. So we have lesson plans that we actually purchase, and there's some you can purchase through USA Gymnastics as well. So we would go by those lesson plans and just redo them. They have like actually themed months and different things like that.
In the video we were watching just a few minutes ago, what age group of class is that?
The one that we just had up was a parent and taught class.
Parent-taught class. And what are the ages for that parent and taught class?
18 months to age 3. So they can't go into class by themselves till they're 3.
So if Layla was enrolled at GymTech during the period of time of 2015, if she was 2 years old, she would have been attending in that type of class. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, correct. She would have to attend a actual parent and taught class, a parent assisted class.
Now, prior to the parents coming into the class, are they getting any training of how to work with their kids, how to hold them, or anything like that during the time that they will be participating in the class with the kids?
Yes, so what's going to happen is when they come in and before the coach does the station, the coach is going to show the parents what is going on at each station. For instance, if they were working on forward walks, they might say down beam 1 is going to be a forward walk, down beam 2 is going to be sideways, down beam 3 is going to be a backwards walk, and beam 4 will be a spotted kicks with the coach. So they're going to let the parent know what to do. If it's like forward rolls or something like that, then they're going to let them know to support the head. But generally, we try to let the staff do anything that needs to be spotted.
Yeah, it's of course, yeah, I think we're going to. And how many videos did you, so what were we observing in that second video?
So that would have been working on a front support, and as you can see, there was another elevated mat up underneath of that so that her feet could still make sure that they were coming down. So being as she was pressing up and going slightly above the bar in a front support, you wanted to make sure there was another mat there so she didn't have, if she was to come off of the bar, it wasn't as far of a drop down to the other mat. So that was just basically working on a front support. And they're again supported by the parent, holding at the waist, supporting the front support and helping them down off of the bar.
Is that the same thing we just looked at?
Yes, ma'am. So the parent's supporting underneath the arm, making sure that the child's coming down safely off of the bar. Are you wanting me to explain these? I'm sorry.
So is that the same, trying to get that child?
So that child was a little bit smaller. So if you could see, the actual coach was there trying to show how to grip the bar. He wasn't quite realizing how he needed to grab onto the bar. So she's helping, trying to show him how to grab onto the bar.
And was that the same mat setup that you were talking about before?
Yes, and there again, as you can see, he's right there at height of the bar. That's why the additional mat is set up underneath of him. So there's actually 2 mats there.
Do you recall how many kids were in this class?
I believe about 3 or 4 maybe.
So what are we observing in that video?
So in the scarf, it's basically trying to teach the child how to grip an object with their feet, use that cord to lift their toes up, which would be another skill as they advance on. They would then probably in the following 2-week lesson plan, it might have been where they grip the bar instead of the block, they're grabbing onto the scarf and trying to pull their toes up holding the scarf. So that was basically just a core strength training, piking up, grabbing an object.
are we observing in that video?
That's a balance beam rotation. So as you can see, the beam that's inclined, that's actually the coach instructor that's with the child there. So they had to walk up an incline beam just to get them used to the height. And then they were able to tap or grab the balloon or kind of play with the balloon once they made it to the end of the beam.
And what were we observing in that one?
That's a tumbling station. So there again, just working on strength training, motions. They're incline again, inverted, like an inverted drill on that round dome is a mushroom. Getting the child used to going upside down. If you saw, then they went to the incline mat where they inverted and actually rolled over with the coach. So that's an inversion drill.
And what were we watching here?
That was a cartwheel, so the other mat that you could see. The first two, what we call our French fries that were on the floor, there again, that's an inversion. Going, placing the hands down, being able to hop over a French fry. And then the next one was going into working on like a cartwheel, trying to teach them like a cartwheel. So feet down, hands down, and then a hop back over to the feet, which is, there again, also an inverted drill.
And what are we observing in that video?
So that's a vault drill. So they're learning how to run down the vault runway, jumping off of the vault, of course, onto a mat. And then that was probably crawling down or hopping down the yellow line across the hearts and back around.
And what's depicted in that video?
Excuse me?
What was shown in that video? What were we
That was just a view of the pretty much the entire facility where training's going on. There were a few of the competitive athletes in there, other recreational classes that were going on, tumbling class. There was a station on the tumble track, and it looked like regular classes running on the opposite floor as well. And then parents' observation area.
Do they ever, the classes, the competitive team or recreation, are they ever intermingling or mixing together while they're there inside the gym? And are they working on the same equipment at the same time?
Not the same equipment at the exact same time, no.
And what's in that video?
That was team training on the actual floor. On the trampoline area was another class that was going on. I can tell that because it's mostly boys. So, and then on the opposite floor, it looked like another team training group, and then there was recreational class.
And would the parent top class ever be over on that side of the video?
No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Nothing further at this time, President Ball.
One second, please. Ladies and gentlemen, there's been a request for a 5-minute break. I'm going to grant it. So to take us the opportunity for a stretch break, we'll see you back in the open meeting room. Thank you. Okay, any housekeeping from anybody?
I'd love to know how we discussed the venue.
Okay. Sir, what did you say?
I'd love to know about the X-ray matter. So I don't think they had any further to worry about that.
And what did you say? I'm sorry.
Sure.
What did you tell them?
Sure, just that they were, that the court had no objection to them showing the X-rays.
That's correct.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yes,
But I heard you correctly, that you would always keep a mat, you build up the mats so that the child could reach the bars, correct?
Yes, unless it's a progression, then they can go up, or there could be progressions within the lesson plan, but there's always some type of mat underneath the bar.
Okay. And when you stack the mats up, it's so that the child can reach, standing up, can reach and hold on to the bar, correct?
It depends on the skill and the age of the child.
Okay, let's talk about children Layla's age. You would build it up so that they could reach the bar and hold on to it.
Yes, ma'am. So if it's an instructed lesson plan with us, then it typically is going to be where they can reach the bar. There's always so the mats that are always down, the color block mats are always there, no matter what. So there's never going to be a bar placed on the concrete. There could be a lesson plan where the parent is able to lift, but their feet should not be hanging far from the mat or even the square mats, the colored block mats that are down. The bars always remain on top of those mats.
And the child, therefore, should be able to stand and reach the bar.
They could stand and reach, or if it's a parent-assisted class, the parent could also pick them up and allow them to grip the bar.
And in that case, there would be more distance between them. and the
Shouldn't be
floor.
any more than like a maybe 2-foot distance between.
Let me show you what I've marked as exhibits 127 and 128. You can take a look at exhibits 127 and 128 and see if you can identify those pictures.
So that's like an actual instructor that is holding her up. So that's an
Tell us,
instructor.
first of all, identify the photo, and then we can show it to you.
Oh yes, I identify the photo.
It's a photo of what?
My instructor holding a child,
Okay.
and then
And number 128?
and that is a mat with the vault board up underneath the mat, and looks like she's assisting her down from the bar.
This time I would tender 127 and 128
No objection, no.
into the record and ask if I may publish.
I made it from your office.
Tell us what we're seeing here.
So that's working on teaching the child to jump from a vault to reach to the bar. So that's a instructor assisting the child on that particular skill. So they would go up the incline of a vault and jump and try to reach the grip onto the bar, spotted by the instructors.
This here is the vault, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
There's
And-
no mat on the vault, is there?
Yes, it's a carpet padded. That's carpet padded. It's not solid wood.
But it's carpet padded, but there's no foam mattress on top of it, no foam mat on top of it, is there?
That's not a foam mat, but there is a
Carpeting.
thickness in it.
And the child cannot reach from,
On her own, no, but she's being assisted with an instructor.
if she were to fall, we're talking about 2 or 3 feet.
Well, the instructor wouldn't let her go to hang by herself. So she's not left alone by herself. If you went and dropped and her arms were actually hanging straight and her feet were hanging down towards the vault, you would only have a couple feet between the vault and her actual feet.
And then you would have about 5 or 6 inches from the vault to the mat.
Yes, there's the vault and there's another mat up underneath the vault.
And number 128, tell us what we're seeing here.
It looks like she's about to prep to teach her to prep to go up and to teach her to reach and grip to the bar. Either that or she was bringing her down from the bar.
Ms. Matheson, on November 2nd, you say you saw Layla cried and tried to comfort her, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't notice any bruises or marks on her, did you, other than her broken leg?
Well, she had on, her cast completely covered her leg and she had on clothes, so no, not to my recognition. I don't remember seeing any additional bruises or anything.
I'm going to show you what I've marked as 126. And ask you if you can identify this photograph.
It's a child climbing up the steps.
Okay, thank you. At this time, Your Honor, I would tender 126 into the record and ask if it may be.
No objection.
Admitted, you follow, sir.
Let me show you what I marked as 124 and 125.
Let me just show you that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Show you what's been marked as 124 and 125. And see if you can identify those by number, please.
What specifically are you asking me to identify?
What are these pictures of your gym? Are they pictures of somebody else's gym?
No, these are pictures of my facility.
Okay, and are they true and accurate copies of, do they truly and accurately represent your facility?
Yes.
Thank you. At this time, Your Honor, I would tender defendants exhibit 124 and 125 into the record.
State with objection 124, no objection to 125.
Your Honor, if I may, Coach.
I heard that the foundational response was that they truly and accurately represent the facility.
The state's objection is as to relevance to this particular case, Judge. I don't know what that particular picture represents as relevant to the facts in this case.
Your Honor, this is no different than showing video of children climbing up and down on apparatus. This is just a still photo.
All the 124 and 125.
Fine. Your Honor, this time I'd ask if I could show. About how old is this child?
The picture is kind of blurred, so I'm assuming maybe 3.
Okay. And is this an accurate reflection of something that transpired at your gym?
Yes, looks like a child training an Arab basque on a balance beam.
In 125,
And that child looks approximately 3 to possibly 4. And she could also be, looks like it's one of my more advanced students by her body position is in perfect form. So that looks like more of a advanced
3-year-old?
3 to 4 year old doing a front support with straight legs, pointed toes, and a perfect arm position with a mat up underneath her.
Is this not in fact Allison Heath? Is this not in fact Laila Heath?
Her face is down, and I have about approximately 400 students plus in my facility, so I wouldn't be able to say specifically if that's Allison Heath.
I just have a moment here. Nothing for you, Your Honor.
Oh, you can
Just a few questions. Ms. Matheson, exhibits number 127 and 128. To your knowledge, did Laila Daniel participate or involved in any of these exercises at your gym on October the 19th of 2015?
No, ma'am. To my knowledge, I don't know of her, other than that she had inquired about doing a class. My office manager, Tricia, informed her that she needed to sign the waiver form.
Object to any testimony about what the office manager said to her.
response?
Without telling me what someone else told you.
It was to my knowledge that she had inquired about doing a class. She was asked to fill out the waiver form. Later, when
One second.
okay,
One
sorry.
second.
As to what it calls for her to testify as to what somebody else told her, where she got it on.
I'll ask you a different
All
way.
right.
Did you ever observe Laila Daniel doing the activities that are depicted in Defense Exhibits 127 and 120?
No, I never observed Layla doing any
What
class.
about in Defense 126?
I never observed her doing that either.
Defense 125?
I
You never
never.
observed Laila Daniel doing any of that at your gym?
No, I did not.
And Defense 124?
No, I did not.
To your knowledge, did Laila Daniel participate or be enrolled in any classes at Gym Tech?
She was not enrolled in any class at Gym Tech.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Isn't it in fact true, as Matthew, that she took a trial class?
She did not sign up for a trial class, nor did she sign a waiver to participate in a trial class.
But you don't know that she didn't take a trial class?
My coach informed me that the parent.
Objection to what somebody else told you.
But Judge, she asked the question. I think she should be allowed to answer.
Overruled.
My coach informed me that the parent or guardian took her out on the floor for approximately 2 rotations, and the child continued to cry, and she took her off, saying, I don't think she's going to do it. But she never signed up for the trial and never turned in a waiver to participate in a trial class.
But she did participate in 2 rounds of a trial class. didn't she?
According to my coach, the parent took her out on the floor.
Thank you.
Those 2 rounds that she participated in, did it involve the beam, the bar, or the vault?
To my knowledge, no, it was only a forward roll station.
Thank you. Nothing further.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You can step down.
Thank you.
Any objection to this witness being excused?
Never mistake,
All right, and yours. The state will call us next witness.
State calls Catherine Brown.
Call up here, please, ma'am. Right through that gate, all the way through the gate. Okay, you're gonna go around this way. Make your way to the witness. Thank you.
I'm sorry, guys, for Catherine Brown. Yeah, you can step out, Ms. Green.
Okay. Right here, please.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please lower your hand. You can have a seat. Can you please state your first and last name and spell it, please?
Catherine Brown, Kathryn, Brown, Brown.
Well, Ms. Brown, how are you employed?
I'm a crime scene technician for Henry County Police Department.
And how long have you been a crime scene technician for Henry County Police Department?
For Henry County since 2010. Prior to that, I worked in County from 2005.
And what are your duties as a crime scene tech?
Our unit is not like on television. We are not detectives. We are civilian personnel. And our duties are different depending on each scene, but they do include everything from photography, videos, sketching, collecting and processing for latent prints, the examination of latent prints, blood pattern analysis.
Anything else you do?
We do a lot. Let's see. We run APHIS and ULW, which are systems that are used to identify fingerprints within the lab, and we collect a lot of data. But we are not detectives. We do not do the interviews or the arrests.
At some point, did you become involved in the case of the state of Jennifer and Joseph Rosenbaum?
Yes, I did.
And how did you become involved in that case?
On November 24th, 2015, I was requested to go with Detective Witt for a follow-up.
And where did you have to go with Detective Witt?
175 Kendra Drive in McDonough, Georgia, gymnastics facility.
And do you know what was the purpose of you going to that gymnastics facility?
To document the appearance of the facility, to examine the equipment, and look at the area where the toddlers played or took classes.
And I'm showing what's been marked as State's Exhibit 198 to 212. If you could flip through those and let me know if you recognize them.
Yes, I recognize them.
And do they fairly and accurately depict what you saw when you went out to the gym location?
Yes, ma'am.
Same as the states 198 through 212 be admitted into evidence. Yes, no objection. Let me show you this remark that states number 198. And if you could please describe what we're looking at in states 198.
All right, so we photographed the general appearance of the gymnastics area, and we also took photographs of the equipment that was used for the toddlers. And we took photographs with scales as well, so you could see the size and the distance off the ground of the items.
And which equipment are we looking at here? Which?
This is a beam that's used for kids. It's about that high off the ground, basically just a long board that kids learn to walk and balance on.
What measurement are you taking in states 198?
It is 4 inches wide,
And what part of the beam is that?
the top.
And states number 199?
Okay, this would be another small beam, and the distance from the ground is 18 inches off of the ground.
And states exhibit number 200?
Okay, another portion of the area, you can see the connected mats and other pads that they play on.
And states 201?
A little tight slide.
In states 202?
The distance to the top of the slide.
And what was that distance?
Let me look at my smaller one, see if I can, the one up close, if I may, or the actual
No, I
photograph.
have it. You want me to bring it up? So
Yes,
you can
please.
see it?
Thank you. Okay. So to the top of the blue area, that's about 36 inches right there. Thank you.
And states exhibit 203?
Another photograph showing the general appearance of the room.
And states 204?
This is one of the bars that they had there.
And what appears to be underneath that bar?
Those are all pads.
States 205?
That's showing the width of the bar itself,
And what was that?
1.5.
In states 206? And if I need to bring it to you to see the measurement, I can.
If you would, please.
And
Thank you,
what were you
ma'am.
measuring in this?
Just the distance from the bar to the ground. So it's about 3.5 inches to the very top of the bar from the ground. And this is an adjustable bar too, so it could be lowered as well. But we photographed it in the position it was when we got there.
In states exhibit 207, what are we looking at here?
The width of the base at the bottom of that,
In states exhibit 208?
that's just simply showing mats again underneath the equipment.
In states 210, is this the same bar or another bar?
I believe this is the same bar.
So it's state 204, would that be the same bar as in
Oh,
states
no, that's,
209?
my apologies, that's a different one. The mats are clearly different.
And come a little bit closer so you can look at the measurements, because I know it's difficult to see from here.
Thank you, ma'am. Looks like it's 3 foot 2 inches to the very top of the bar from the ground.
In states exhibit 209. I'm sorry, 210. What are we looking at there?
It looks like she's taking a measurement on the top,
In states 211?
and 1.5 inches approximately.
In states exhibit 212, and I'll probably have to bring it up to you. to see
Yes,
that.
and that would be the bar underneath it again, just the. Thank you. Looks like that's approximately 1.5 inches as well.
Thank you. Nothing further this time. Sorry.
You came to Gym Tech and photographed what you saw, correct?
I'm sorry, ma'am?
You photographed what you saw,
I photographed the general appearance of the toddler area.
but it's what you saw, correct? You didn't set it up.
That's correct, ma'am. It is how it was appeared when we arrived.
And in fact, the balance beam can be raised or lowered, isn't that true?
And how old was Macy in 2015?
She was 4 at the time.
And the class that, what type of class was she attending at Gym Tech?
Just a pre-K gymnastics class.
And were there any other children involved in that class?
Yes, there was just one other child.
And do you recall who that child was?
Yes, her name was Millie.
And do you recall who would bring Millie to that class?
Her mother, Jennifer.
And when you say Jennifer, are you speaking of Jennifer Rosenbaum?
Yes.
And had you met Jennifer Rosenbaum prior to your daughter attending Gym Tech?
No, ma'am.
What days would your daughter have class?
I think it was on Mondays, Monday afternoons.
And was Millie always in the class with your daughter once she started in October?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you ever have any conversation with Jennifer Rosenbaum during, let me ask you first of all, while your daughter was in class, where would you be?
We would sit on a bench right in front of the class, maybe just a few feet away, a bench that was attached to the wall for parents to sit.
And would you be able to go onto the floor at all?
If necessary. I didn't, but if I needed to for some reason, I could have.
And prior to your daughter signing up for the class, did you have to fill out any paperwork or do anything?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you recall having to fill out?
I'm sure it was our address information, probably any sort of questions about allergies or just information about my child, or I can't really remember, but I'm sure just a standard form of just basic information or things they may need to know.
Do you recall if you had to fill out any waivers?
Absolutely.
And when did you fill out that waiver?
I think immediately, whenever we signed up for the gym. I'm sure I had to sign a waiver before she was allowed to participate in anything.
And I'm sure it was already been introduced into Evidence States Exhibit number 194. You can look behind you.
Okay.
Do you recognize that area?
Yes.
And what is that?
Just a parent waiting area.
Is that what you were describing when you said where you would be at during class?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you ever observe Jennifer Rosenbaum during those classes?
Yes, ma'am.
And where would she be?
We would normally sit together.
And would there be anyone else with you or Miss Rosenbaum?
Not normally. She had her other little girl with her.
Okay. And do you recall that other little girl's name?
Layla.
Okay. And what would Layla be doing while the girls were in class?
She would lay on the bench the entire time.
Did you ever see her out on the mats or participating in any class during the time you were there?
No.
Did you ever see her up walking around or running around the gym on equipment when class was not going on?
No.
Did you ever observe her out on the mats with Jennifer Rosenbaum playing on any of the equipment?
No, ma'am.
What would Layla's demeanor be during the time that the class was going on?
She seemed very maybe sleepy. Not like your typical child, I guess. Not rambunctious, not energetic, very tired maybe. She would just lay down.
Did you ever mention her demeanor to the defendant, Jennifer Rosenbaum?
I did. I was, I guess, curious because it seemed peculiar to me. My daughter only being a few years older, I thought it was bizarre that she was so calm and kind of quiet. So I think I did ask her, is everything okay?
And did she respond to you?
She did. She explained that, well, I think at first she said, oh, she's always like this. She's just, I can take her anywhere. She's very calm and quiet. And yes, so.
Do you recall her telling you anything else about Layla?
Yes.
And let me ask you, was this the first time you had met Ms. Rosenbaum when you had this conversation or sometime later?
It's hard for me to remember. I don't remember if it was the first time or if it was the second time, but she did go into a little bit more detail kind of about her demeanor. I think I may have asked her again. I was just curious why she was so calm and quiet.
I would object to her feelings and if she's curious or not curious and say what she observed.
I think she can talk about her own feelings, Your Honor. And would you ever have any conversation outside of Gym Tech with Jennifer Rosenbaum?
No.
And you stated that you were curious about Layla's demeanor.
Yes, ma'am.
And did you further inquire about her demeanor?
I did.
And who did you ask about her demeanor?
I asked Jennifer.
And what did she tell you?
She said that she, I guess, described her behavior being that way because she was in an abusive home and that they were actually fostering to adopt her. So that it explained, I guess, her odd behavior.
Did you ever talk to Jennifer about Millie?
Well, very little. I did ask her at one point, why would she adopt a child who had been through so much when she already had a daughter?
Layla walking around while she was at the gym?
No.
Did you have any other conversation with Jennifer while you would be at the gym?
We talked about mom stuff, just small talk about different things. I think I asked her if they were going trick-or-treating. We talked about stuff like that, but we did talk extensively. You know, the class was an hour long, so we would talk the entire class each time.
Would she share anything with you about herself personally, Jennifer Rosenbaum?
Yes, ma'am. She told me just basic things, that she was an attorney and probably where she lived, you know, or the area.
Just a,
Anything else you can recall besides her telling you that she was an attorney?
We talked about discipline a little bit. She said that it seemed like she's very strict on her children. She said that we were actually talking about Halloween, and I asked if they would go trick-or-treating, and I made the comment that I didn't really like to give my kid candy because it would make her really hyper, and I can't exactly remember how the conversation went, but she did say something about how she made the girls run stairs, or run laps if they, I guess, misbehaved.
Did she tell you any other forms of discipline she would use?
I think that was all.
About how many classes do you recall attending, Millie attending and Macy attending?
I think it was maybe 4 or 5-ish, I think.
Did you ever observe any injuries or bruising on Millie at all?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I'm sorry?
Can you tell me about that and when it was?
Yes, ma'am. I don't exactly remember when. It seems like it would have been a few times after me meeting them. Millie had a bruise on her face, on her cheek, on her cheekbone area. And, yeah.
And, did you inquire about that bruise with anyone, to Jennifer or to Millie at all?
I'm trying to remember. Someone asked Millie what happened, and Millie just sort of paused and said that she fell. But she took a moment, and I noticed that she just looked right at Jennifer and paused, and then she finally said, "Yes, I fell."
And so was Jennifer present when you asked her about her face?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the only time you noticed a bruise on Millie?
Yes, ma'am.
When I'm going to back up for just a moment. When the defendant Jennifer Rosenbaum was telling you about Layla's history with the biological parents, did she give you any more information about whether her relationship with the biological parent?
Yes, ma'am. She stated that she was friends with she knew the biological mother, that they were in foster care together as children.
And how did she describe their relationship, if at all?
I don't think they had a relationship at all, but she definitely did not like her, from what I gathered. She did not say, she just said that it wasn't good. She wasn't a good mom.
Would Layla be present at all the classes that Millie attended when you were there?
I think so. I think all but maybe one.
Okay. And that one time, did you have any discussion with Jennifer about Layla's absence?
Yes, I did actually. I asked her, where was she, and she said that, I think she said she was with her dad, that she was having a difficult time potty training her, and seemed very, I guess, irritated about, like she kind of had enough or was frustrated with her, so that she wanted her dad to deal with her.
Do you recall which class that was? Was it first class or the last class?
It might have been in the middle. It definitely wasn't the first class.
At any point in time, did you observe any injuries on Layla? Yes. Can you tell me, if you can recall, when that was?
I think it was either the first or second time that I saw Layla. It must have been the second time, because she was laying on the bench, and my daughter had a little stuffed animal, and she asked Layla if she wanted to hold it while she, had her class, and she slid off the bench to, I guess, look at the little stuffed animal, and her shirt came up a little bit, and I could see all over her stomach, like bruising or red marks. Something was definitely wrong. Definitely had injury to her stomach.
And what part of the stomach was it that you saw?
I think it was kind of lower abdomen area, I think. I'm not really sure, but I want to say like maybe around her belly button and below.
And when you saw that redness, what did you do?
I I know that I gasped and I said, oh my gosh, what happened to her?
Who were you asking that to?
Jennifer. And I was very concerned, and I think anybody would be. And I said, oh my gosh, is she okay? What happened? And she proceeded to tell me that she had been abused terribly by the mother, that it went into detail about just very disturbing things that had been done, that she had been burned with really hot water. And, so that obviously something had happened, but I don't know.
So I want to make sure I understand you. She told you that Layla had been burned with hot water?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she go into any other details about any other types of abuse that she had received?
She said that, very disturbing. She said that the mother, the mother and maybe the boyfriend, I can't really remember. She did, anyway. She said that they would make Layla eat her poop when they changed her diaper, and if she wouldn't, she would pour boiling hot water on her abdomen and on her private parts.
Did she tell you anything else about the abuse that she believed Layla sustained by her biological parents?
I don't recall. I know that she said that she had a really hard time, like, changing her diapers and stuff like that after that, and that was why. I don't think that she said anything else about any other type of abuse.
At any point, did she tell you how long Layla had been in her care at that time?
No, I don't think she ever told me how long she had her.
During the time you were at Gym Tech, did you ever observe Layla doing a trial class or on the mats or participating in any way in the gymnastics that was going on?
No.
To your knowledge, did Layla ever participate in a trial class?
It seems like there was a time, I don't know if it was like right before we got to class one day, if it was prior to one of the classes, maybe a few minutes before, or if it was on a different day, but I know that when we came into the gym for our class, that I remember Jennifer talking about how, maybe talking with one of the teachers about Layla, they were trying to get her to do one of the classes, and she couldn't do it. She was crying the whole time, and she could not do the trial class, that she did not finish it, or I don't know how long they were trying to do it. She was upset, and she couldn't do it.
Did you ever talk to Jennifer about Layla trying to do the trial class?
I don't recall asking her any questions about it, but I know that there was a little bit of a discussion. It was almost as if she was kind of just thinking out loud, maybe talking, saying that that maybe it was her leg bothering her, and maybe that's why she couldn't do it. And she mentioned several times that her leg that it had bothered her, I guess, for a couple days, that she knew that the girls were outside doing gymnastics at home in the front yard, and that Layla had fallen, and that she wondered if maybe she had hurt her leg there.
Did you say anything to her about that statement that she made about Layla's leg already hurting?
I believe so. I believe I asked her, are you going to take her to urgent care or take her somewhere?
Do you know if you made that statement to Ms. Rosenbaum?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And what was her response?
She said that, I can't remember verbatim, but she seemed very frustrated and did not want to do that. She made several comments about how she didn't like taking her to the doctor because they asked so many questions, that she always had to answer questions about the mom's abuse, and that she didn't like going.
Did you have any response to those statements?
No, other than just me saying, well, are you going to take her? But no.
Did you observe Layla that day?
I noticed that she was there. I don't know. I don't remember anything specific, but she was there.
And when was the next time that you saw Jennifer Rosenbaum and Layla after that discussion?
I think it would have been the next class, like the following Monday.
And what did you observe, if anything, about Layla in that next class?
She did, in fact, have a cast on her leg.
Did you ask or inquire about the cast on her leg?
I don't think so. I think I just thought, okay, that makes sense.
Did Ms. Rosenbaum ever make mention to you about how she had hurt her leg to have a cast on it?
No, not anything other than just that she had fallen, or she thought maybe she just fell in the front yard, and that's when it happened. Or she did say that she did fall in the front yard, and she was assuming that's when she hurt her leg.
Did she ever tell you that she had fallen at gymnastics?
No.
Did she ever tell you that she had fallen off of a beam at Gym Tech?
No.
Or a bar at Gym Tech?
No.
Had you ever observed Layla on a beam or a bar or a vault at Gym Tech?
No.
After you saw Layla with a cast on, did Millie continue to come to class?
I think she did. I don't know how many times it was after that, but she did.
And I think I asked you before about observing a bruise on Millie. Was that before Layla had the cast on or after that you saw that bruise to Millie's face?
I really don't recall. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. After they came to the class and Layla had the cast on, did Millie continue to come to class?
Well, I think, I don't remember how many times after that was. Obviously, I would have seen her at a class if I saw Layla's cast. I don't remember if it was one time after that or if that was the last time. It doesn't seem like it was the last time, no. She would have had to have come to class again after that. Because I remember seeing Jennifer another time, and it was the last time I saw her.
And tell me about that last time you saw her.
Just that she was there, and she had a friend with her, and we didn't really speak that time. I just figured she, was with a friend, and then that was the last time I saw her.
Okay. And you mentioned that the defendant, Jennifer Rosenbaum, indicated that Layla had been abused by her biological parents. Did she ever mention anything about abuse by prior foster parents?
No.
Your daughter, Macy, how long did she continue to take gymnastics?
For a few years after.
Has she ever had any injuries as a result of taking gymnastics?
No.
Was she ever injured while she was at gym tech?
Nope.
At some point, did you learn about the death of Laila Daniel?
I did, eventually. I didn't know for a little while. I didn't know. In fact, I had asked one of the ladies there, if what was going on. I hadn't seen her in a while, and she didn't say anything, but eventually I found out.
How did you find out?
I saw it on TV.
Okay. And what did you do when you saw it on the TV?
I was just very surprised, I guess, or very, I think anybody would be shocked, but it very disturbing.
Did you ever speak to the police about your interactions with the defendant, Jennifer Rosenbaum, at Gym Tech?
Yes.
Do you recall when that was?
Oh, it was a little while after. I don't remember. It might have been like a month or so, maybe a little bit longer, before I spoke with anyone.
And how did you end up speaking with the police about your interactions with the defendant?
I felt like I had a moral responsibility to speak to someone because I felt like the things that we had discussed were not true, and it was bothering me really bad.
And what did you do at that point?
I spoke with a detective. I went and met with him and gave a statement on the things that I did know.
And were those the things that you shared with us today?
Yes, ma'am.
During that interaction with the detective, did you tell him about the injuries that you saw to Layla?
Yes.
Do you recognize State's Exhibit 213?
Yes.
And how were you able to recognize it?
It was something that he had drawn or written in front of me and asked me to look at it.
I'd ask the State's Exhibit 213 be admitted into evidence.
Admitted.
And can you tell us what we're looking at here in State's Exhibit 213?
It would have just been a sketch for us to both understand where I had described seeing an injury to her abdomen area. I think he wanted to know a better idea of exactly, so he drew a picture, and we agreed that was the same place.
And so the arrow that's pointing that says injuries, was that drawn to indicate the area where you saw the injury?
Yes, ma'am.
In State's Exhibit number 45, is that consistent with where you saw the injury on Layla?
Yes, ma'am.
No.
Cross.
In your statement to police, you said you saw a scar on the child's abdomen. Isn't that true?
I wasn't exactly sure what it was, to be honest. I saw redness, and
Let
it
me
looked
see
like.
if this would help refresh your recollection as to what you told the police.
I've read it. I know what it says.
And what does it say?
Let's see. I was able to see scars on her lower abdomen.
Nothing about redness, right?
Right. Not on that statement.
Bruises, right? Anything about bruises or redness?
Not on that paper. No.
Now, you went to see the detective yourself. They didn't come to you, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You volunteered that on January 22nd, 2016, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were friends with Layla's great aunt, isn't that correct?
No, we're not friends.
But you are Facebook friends, aren't you?
I mean, I recognized her name from something, and I reached out to her and asked her if there was someone that I could speak to. I did not tell her any details. We never talked personal information. I just said, I had some things I wanted to share with someone. Could she point me in the right direction? And I do not know her. We're not friends by any means.
So you would deny that you're friends with her on Facebook, where you comment on what she says and what you say to her?
Since we've been friends on Facebook, we've friended each other. On her personal Facebook page, if she posts a Bible scripture that I think is nice, I may comment and say that's nice, but we've never had coffee,
In fact, you're a member of Justice for Layla, aren't you, of the website Justice for Layla?
I may be. I'm not really on social media very often.
Let me see if this.
And I just want to be really quick, because I think we're mixing things up. There are several different incidents. This was a statement that was made in July 7th of 2015. A time before the children, that particular incident was a time before the children even went into care and was not the subject of that particular forensic interview. If I could just provide a little bit of foundation, when the children were placed with Ms. Brown made a statement to the case manager that she had observed the girls touching themselves and was concerned. And at that time, that's when these allegations, possibly someone by the name of Marcus may have touched the girls at some previous time. And then that was the reason why they went forward with a forensic interview. I think to get into all of that, it would be confusing to the jury because it has really nothing to do with this particular case.
That's true.
But it goes to credibility and humility, in the fact that the mother says, on the stand, she said she doesn't lie. And here we have a statement from her saying that, in fact, she did not report her own child's child molestation because she couldn't count on the story being accurate.
And Judge, I would further say there are no sexual assault charges.
Stop for a second. I have to take this in and think about it. It seems to me the first thing is that it's not so much the forensic interview that's the issue. The issue is whether or not Millie is always making consistent statements, and that's something that we've heard a lot already. I think that we both agree. True.
Yes, sir.
So it's not as though this is the only place from which to extract such information, number one. And so when we're balancing the risk of confusing the jury with the set of unrelated and allegations against the benefit to the defense in extracting this additional piece of information without context, I think that the balance weighs heavily in favor of exclusion of that particular bit of information. But I'm not so sure that that is the right lens through which to look at it, but certainly a piece of this analysis. Is there, and I'm sorry I stopped you, Ms. Young, is there anything else you want to add there?
I'll stop there, Judge.
Nothing else?
Nothing else at this moment.
All right, Ms. Wall.
Your Honor, I can ask it when I call the court commission reports. I can ask it of Tessa. Tessa was asked, because she tells lies, or she only tells little lies. She doesn't tell big lies. Well, this is a fairly enormous lie. That what the state is wanting is to hide that fact that her own mother does not report child molestation because she can't be sure that her daughter's not making it up.
I think that can be separated from the forensic interview. In other words, you don't have to ask it through this witness, but instead you would recall Tessa for that purpose, and that would be, I suppose, I mean, arguably you had a chance to fully do a thorough and sifting cross-examination of Tessa already, but that would be the way I think to navigate this issue without complicating things too much. Does the state disagree?
No, Your Honor, and we'll cross that bridge. I think the state would have other issues if it came to that point, but I agree with this, the best way to move forward at this point.
At this point, all right. Is that acceptable?
That's acceptable.
Okay, let's do that. And if we could please call next witness.
Samantha White.
I just read them. We apologize for the delay, but I can assure you we've been working. Let's go ahead and have Ms. White approach the witness stand.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth and the whole truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please lower your hand and state and spell your first and last name.
Samantha White, and it's spelled Samantha, and last name White, White.
And Ms. White, how are you employed currently?
Currently, I work at a group home
And how long have you been employed with that group home?
since November.
And you have a really soft voice.
I'm
So I
sorry.
ask you to speak up, pull the mic up, and keep your voice up, please.
Okay. Can you
That's
hear me?
much better, yes.
Sorry about that.
And prior to working at this group home, where were you employed?
I was working at Mary Mac's Tea Room.
Okay, and prior to that?
Prior to that, Starbucks.
Let me go, 2015, where were you employed?
Henry County DFACS.
And how long had you been employed with Henry County DFACS in 2015?
For about 3 years. It would have been 3 years.
And what position did you hold while you were employed at DFACS?
Foster care case manager.
And tell me about your background that led you to DFACS, your educational training and experience.
Okay, well, I graduated with my bachelor's in criminal justice. After that was really just college experience.
And prior to working for DFACS, what did you do?
I was still working with Starbucks.
Okay. And when you started working for DFACS, did you have any type of training?
Oh, yes, I was sent to training.
And what type of training did you have?
Just foster care training, just going over rules and procedures, how to talk with children.
And how long was that training that you received from DFACS?
I'm not sure exactly how long it lasted, but it was different trainings that would usually last about a week long, each training.
And would you go through those week-long trainings over the course of your 3 years with DFACS?
Yes, it was done in the beginning.
And after you were complete your training, did you handle a caseload?
Yes, ma'am.
How many cases did you have on your caseload?
I'm not sure the exact number.
Average is fine.
Probably about 7 to 10.
And what was your responsibility?
more.
I'm sorry.
I said maybe more.
What were your responsibilities as to your caseload? What were your duties? What did you have to do?
I have to see the parent and the children and the foster parents once a month. If they were in school, check on them in school, see how they were doing with their grades. If they were in therapy, check in with their therapist to see how they were doing. Make sure they were going to their appointments.
Okay. And we've heard about various different units in DFACS. What unit were you considered to work in?
Foster care.
Okay. And was your caseload involving the children or the foster parent?
Both.
And was part of your job to provide resources to the foster parents?
No, it would be for the children.
If the foster parent needed resources, who would provide those?
I'm not sure who would provide them, but I could put them like on the right path.
Who would you send them to?
They could go to OFI, like how like the regular parents do. They had to fill out the same applications if assistance was needed.
Okay. And you talked about going over, I guess, rules and procedures with DFACS.
Yes, ma'am.
What rules and procedures in regards to corporal punishment did DFACS have?
We don't allow corporal punishment.
And what is the definition of corporal punishment by DFACS?
Like physical force to discipline a child.
And was this information given to all foster parents?
Yes, ma'am.
And in regards to doctor's visits and hospital visits, who handled those?
It could be either the foster parent or the case manager.
And you mentioned school. Who handled, if the child was school age, who handled those responsibilities as far as the child going to school? Registration and all?
It would be shared. The foster parent could register. If they were unable to, the case manager would.
And then I think you said therapy or counseling. Who would handle that?
The case manager.
And what in all did that involve in handling counseling or therapy as a case manager?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that for me?
What all were your duties? If you had someone that was involved in counseling or therapy as a case manager, what would be your duties?
To send out the referral for therapy, a service authorization if it was needed, and just to check in with the therapist, see how the child is doing, see if they need something more intense or if therapy was needed.
So if a child on your caseload was involved in therapy, would you have knowledge of that?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you have direct contact with that therapist or counselor?
Yes, ma'am.
And those therapy and counseling, where would those, if a child was in therapy or counseling, where would that occur?
What do you mean?
Would it be in an office? Would it be in a home? Or would it be in a facility? Like, where would those therapy sessions or counseling sessions occur?
It depends on the therapist, but they're usually done in the home.
And I want to move you forward to when dealing with, as a case manager, you dealt with the children, the foster parents. Who handled or worked with the biological parents if they were present?
That would be the case manager as well.
And what would be your duties as far as the biological parents or caregivers?
Well, for them, I would check in with them at least once a month as well to make sure that they are completing their case plan.
Did your responsibilities in regards to the biological parents involve visitations?
Yes, ma'am.
And how were those handled? As a case manager, how would you handle those as far as scheduling? Who would that go through?
That would go through the case manager, and sometimes it's contracted out if it has to be supervised. And then with that, we have to work with the person who will be supervising the visitation.
Let's talk about unsupervised visitations. If they're unsupervised visitations with the biological parent, how is scheduling of those handled?
Still, we just meet with the parent to come up with a good schedule, because sometimes we have to work around their work schedule.
And how would the foster parent, what part did the foster parent play in those schedulings?
If they're unsupervised, sometimes we can let the foster parent and the biological parent, depending on their relationship with each other, we can let them work together in coming up with a schedule that works for both of them.
And if they're supervised?
If they're supervised, it still will be the same. We can let them set up a schedule that works for them, but it also has to be, you have to have someone available to supervise the visit.
And would the foster parent ever be the person that, I guess, did the supervised visitations?
If they felt comfortable enough, they would be allowed to supervise the visit.
And if they did not, how would that be handled?
Then we would have someone supervise the visit for them, well, in place of them.
And who would DFACS normally use for those supervised visits?
We had people who we were contracted with who could come in and supervise visits.
And if you had supervised visits, where would those visits occur?
They could occur out in the community or at the DFACS office.
And then in regards to, I guess, doctor visits and hospital visits or dental visits, what part did the case manager, as yourself as a case manager, play in assuring that the children, I guess, attended those different appointments?
Sometimes we would make the appointments, we could arrange the appointments, or the foster parent can make the appointments because it's also based on their schedule as well. If a foster parent is unable to take the child to the appointment, then the case manager will take them.
At some point in 2015, did your caseload include Millie Place and Laila Daniel?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you become the case manager for Millie Place and Laila Daniel?
They were assigned to me.
And do you recall when you were assigned their case?
It was sometime in April.
April of what year?
April of 2014, or 14 or 15.
With looking at
Not
something
sure.
help to refresh your recollection?
Yes, ma'am. April 2015.
And make sure you keep your voice up for me.
Yes, ma'am. 2015.
And at the time that Millie and Layla came into care, were they in placement?
Yes, ma'am.
Were they already in placement when you were assigned as their case manager?
Yes, ma'am.
And where were they in placement at?
They were placed with Miss Brown.
And as their case manager, were you aware of why they were in placement, why they were in DFACS custody?
Due to neglect and drug use.
Did any of their history indicate that there had been any history of physical abuse?
Not to my knowledge.
At the time that Millie and Layla were on your case plan, on your caseload, did you have contact with the biological parents?
Yes, ma'am.
Which parents did you have contact with?
Both the biological father and the biological mother.
Let's talk about the biological fathers.
Okay.
As to Millie, who was her biological father? Would it help you to look at something?
Yes, I honestly don't know whose father was who. Yes, Jacob Place.
And what about Layla?
And Mr. Anthony Daniels.
What contact, if any, did you have with Jacob Place?
I did have contact with Jacob Place. Once he was out, he would come in and he would meet with me at the DFACS office.
And you said once he was out, what do you mean?
Out of jail.
Okay. And he met with you where?
The DFACS office.
During the time that you were the caseworker for Millie Place, did Mr. Jacob Place have any visitations with Millie or Layla?
Visitations were arranged or supervised visits.
I'm sorry?
Yes, he had supervised visits.
Okay. And do you know how many times those visits occurred?
I do not remember how many.
Were those visits always supervised?
Yes.
Were you involved in supervising those visits?
No, we had someone sit in and supervise the visits.
Was it the foster parents that were supervising those visits?
They were allowed to supervise some of them, but in the beginning they started out at the DFACS office.
And what about Anthony Daniel? What contact did you have with him, if any?
Yes, I met with him as well. We would meet at the DFACS office, and he was given visitation as well to supervise.
And Tessa Daniel, did you have contact with her?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did she have visitations?
Yes, ma'am.
And were those visitations supervised or unsupervised?
Those were supervised as well.
And do you recall how many visitations she had?
I don't remember exactly how many.
At any point during the time that you were the caseworkers, was Tessa Daniel's visitations canceled by DFACS?
Well, yes.
Who canceled those visitations?
That would be through DFACS.
Okay. And what was the reason that DFACS canceled the visitations?
Because we were unable to contact her.
And I want to make sure that I understand the difference. Was it because were you stopping visitations where she could no longer have visitations, or unable to have visitations because she was not located?
It was because we were unable to locate her.
Was she ever located during the process in which you were the case manager in 2015?
Could you repeat that for me?
Had she ever been located during the time that you were their case manager in 2015?
Yes.
To your knowledge, did she ever go to any of their supervised visitations?
Yes.
How many times did she go to those supervised visitations?
I'm not sure how many, but she made at least a couple of them. I'm not sure exactly how many.
Did DFACS at any point ever stop or would not allow Tessa Daniel to have visitation with Millie Place or Laila Daniel?
No, ma'am.
Now, you said when the girls first came into care, they were with Ms. Brown.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you familiar with Ms. Brown at all?
Like, did I know her personally?
Did you know her? Had you ever placed any of your other children with her? Did you know anything about Ms. Brown prior to, I guess, Millie Place and Laila Daniel being placed in her home?
No, ma'am.
And as part of your duties, did you ever visit the girls when they were with Ms. Brown?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times would you say you visited the girls during the time they were placed with Ms. Brown?
I'm not sure exactly how many times, but probably like at least 4 or 5 times. You had to go out there once a month.
And when you would go out for visits once a month, what would you do?
I would go out. I would speak with Millie, sit with the girls, primarily speak with Millie because she was the one who was talking. Then I would also speak with Miss Brown to see how she was doing with the girls and if she needed anything from me and how they had been adjusting to the home.
And how were they adjusting to the home?
They were doing okay. Definitely wanting to be with family members.
And how would you know they wanted to be with family members?
Millie would often speak about wanting to be with her grandmother.
And who was her grandmother?
Miss Banks.
And was Millie having visits with Miss Banks during the time that they were in the home with Miss Brown?
Yes, I am.
Okay. How often would those visits occur?
About every week, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure.
And were those visits supervised visits or unsupervised visits?
They were unsupervised.
And how long would those visits last with Miss Banks?
Sometimes she would do day visits, and sometimes she would keep her overnight.
What about Layla? Was she having visits with Miss Peggy Banks?
Not during that time, no, ma'am.
And do you know why she was not having visits?
To my understanding, she didn't really have a connection with Layla. She had primarily been with Millie, and that's who she was doing her visits with.
And you said not at first. At some point during the time when the girls were with Miss Brown, did Miss Banks start to have visitation with Millie and Layla?
Not while they were with Miss Brown.
During the time they were with Miss Brown, I'm gonna just ask, when Millie would come back from visits with Peggy while she was with Miss Brown, were there ever any concerns about abuse?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever receive any reports from anyone that the girls would return with any types of injuries or bruises when Millie would go visit with Miss Peggy Banks?
No, ma'am.
Take another step back.
Okay.
When the girls were first placed with Miss Brown, when you went, did you go out to the home to visit?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you examine the girls per DFACS's protocol?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know any bruises or injuries of any nature on the girls when they first went into care into Miss Brown's home?
No, ma'am.
During the course of time while they were living with Miss Brown, did you ever observe any injuries on the children, on Millie Place or on Layla Daniel?
Not that I remember.
And would it help
I'm
to
trying to think,
refresh your
nothing stands out
recollection
to
if
me
you,
right now.
I'm sorry?
I'll say nothing standing out to me right now.
Okay. Nothing that stood out to you at all?
Correct.
Okay. Besides Millie having visitations with Peggy Banks, did they have visitations with Tessa Daniel during that time?
I don't remember if that started while they were still with Miss Brown or not.
What about with Jacob Place or Anthony Daniel?
If I'm not mistaken, their visit started later.
During the time that Millie Place and Layla were with Miss Brown, were they going to doctor's appointments?
Yes, ma'am.
How were you made aware, or how do you know they were going to doctor's appointments?
Miss Brown would inform me. I think with their first ones, I was actually the person who made their appointments.
And were they ever in school or daycare during the time that they were with Miss Brown?
No, ma'am.
Were they receiving any type of therapy or counseling while they were with Miss Brown?
If I'm not mistaken, they had started with Pathways.
And to your knowledge, how long did the sessions with Pathways last?
It wasn't long. Layla wasn't verbal, so she wasn't able to do therapy. And at the time, it was stated that Millie wouldn't need to continue.
That she what?
She wouldn't need to continue.
She wouldn't need to continue.
Correct.
Okay. So to your knowledge, after, I guess, how many sessions did they have?
With Millie, she probably had maybe like 1 or 2 sessions. She didn't have a lot.
And where did those sessions occur?
They were in the home, if I'm not mistaken.
In whose home?
The foster parents' home.
Which
I'm sorry. Would it have been Miss Brown or Miss Lambert?
And after those couple of sessions, did they continue to have any therapy to your knowledge?
No, ma'am.
And if they received therapy after those couple of sessions, would you have been aware of that?
Yes, ma'am.
During the time that the girls were with Miss Brown, were there ever any concerns about Millie lying?
I don't remember anything major about her lying. That sounds familiar, but I don't remember anything specific about her lying about something.
So nothing major.
Correct.
During the time that the girls were with Miss Brown, did they have visitations with anyone else? We talked about Miss Banks, Tessa, Jacob Place, Anthony Daniel. Was there anyone else that they were having visitations with?
No, ma'am.
At some point, did that change and they began to have visitations with someone else while they were with Miss Brown?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Do you know the Rosenbaums, Jennifer and Joseph Rosenbaum?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how do you know them?
They became, it's just like caregivers for Millie and Layla.
When do you recall the Rosenbaums becoming involved with Millie Place and Layla Daniel?
I had received their phone number from a coworker.
And do you recall whose home they were living in at that time?
They were with Miss Lambert at that time, I believe.
And you said you received a phone call from a coworker.
Oh, I received her phone number from a coworker. They had, she had saw them while they were at court. Miss Rosenbaum had saw them while they were at court.
And what did you do, if anything, with the phone number that you received?
I called and spoke with her. I told her that I was informed that she was interested in being a placement for the girls. So I got, her general information, name, address, how she knew the girls.
And what happened after you got all of that information?
I contacted the biological mother, Miss Tessa.
And what happened once you contacted Tessa?
I let her know that Miss Rosenbaum had interest in being a placement for the girls. I asked her about their history together and if that's something that she would feel comfortable with.
And what happened after you had that conversation with Tessa Daniel?
Well, after speaking with her and she seemed to be okay with it, we started the process of screening.
And what's the process of screening?
We had to do background checks and a home evaluation.
And were those things done?
Yes, ma'am.
How long did that process take?
I'm not sure exactly how long it took. I would say maybe about a month.
During that time where the process was occurring for the Rosenbaums to I guess, be a placement for the girls, were there visits that they would have?
Yes, ma'am.
Would those visits be supervised or unsupervised?
Their visits were unsupervised.
And how long would those visits last?
They started out as just day visits, and then we worked our way up to overnight visits.
And at some point prior to the girls being placed with the Rosenbaums, did their placement move from Ms. Brown?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall how long the girls were in placement with Ms. Brown prior to them being moved?
I think about maybe 2 months.
And were you involved in moving the girls from their placement with Ms. Brown?
Yes, ma'am.
And where did they go after leaving Ms. Brown's home?
I'm with Miss Lambert.
Prior to moving a child from one foster parent's home to another foster parent's home, is there anything that happens with the girls? Do they go anywhere in between?
They're usually at our office.
Okay. Is there any examinations of the girls done prior to them being placed in a new foster parent's home?
No, ma'am.
Did you observe Millie and Layla prior to them going into Ms. Lambert's home?
It would have been during their visit, but not like in between their move.
So was it, when you say their visits while they were with the Browns, or their visits once they got to the Lamberts?
Well, I mean, it would be both. I said it would be done during their visit, like it wasn't done during their move.
Okay. So tell me about your visits with with Ms. Brown. At this point, are your visits done and complete when they're moving to Ms. Lambert?
Yes, ma'am.
How long after they are placed with Ms. Lambert is it before you go out to visit?
I know I saw them that day 'cause I was the one who placed them with Miss Lambert. I'm not sure when my actual visit was.
So when you say you were the ones who placed them with Ms. Lambert, did you take them to Ms. Lambert's home?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you observe the girls on the day that you took them to Ms. Lambert's home?
No, ma'am.
You didn't see them? Did you see the
No,
girls?
I saw them,
Okay.
yes, 'cause I dropped them off.
When you saw them, did you see any bruises or injuries on them?
Not that I remember.
Did you do a full examination, or was just picking them up and dropping them off?
I was just dropping them off.
And once they got into did you know Ms. Lambert prior to the girls being placed in her home?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you know Ms. Lambert?
She's one of our foster parents, and I've had children placed with her before.
During the time that you had children placed with Ms. Lambert before, did you ever have any issues or concern about a child's safety with Ms. Lambert?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever have a child that was injured while in Ms. Lambert's care?
No, ma'am.
And do you recall how long Ms. Lambert had been a foster parent at that point?
I'm not sure.
Had she been a foster parent for the 3 years that you had been with defects?
Yes, ma'am.
Once the children went with Ms. Lambert, did they continue to have visitations with any family members?
Yes, ma'am.
Who were those family members?
They could continue visitation with Miss Banks, Miss Tessa, Mr. Place, and Mr. Daniel.
And with Ms. Banks, were those still unsupervised visitations?
Yes, ma'am.
And with the biological fathers, were they still supervised visitations?
Yes, ma'am.
What about Tessa Daniel? Were they having any visitations with her?
Yes.
Okay. And were those still supervised?
Yes, ma'am.
What about the Rosenbaums, the defendants? Were they still having visitations with them?
Yes, ma'am.
And the visitations that they were having with the Rosenbaums, where would those visitations occur?
I know sometimes they would have them at the McDonald's that was close by to Miss Lambert's home. Different stuff in the community, and sometimes at the home.
And how did those visitations appear to be going?
They seem to be going well.
And how often would they have those day visits?
I don't remember how often they were.
I'm sorry?
I don't remember how often they were.
And what about with Miss Banks? Were they still having visitations with her?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how often they were?
No, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was saying I wasn't sure how many she had, because during that point they were visiting with the parents as well.
So I'm going to start with the parents.
Okay.
When they would come back from visits, when I say them, Millie and Layla, did you ever receive any complaints from Ms. Lambert about there being any injuries or bruisings on the girls when they would come back from visits with Tessa Daniel, Jacob Place, or Anthony Daniel?
No, ma'am.
What about when they would come back from visits with Peggy Banks?
No, ma'am.
And at this time, was Peggy Banks having visitations with both girls or still just Millie?
She would visit with both. It was still primarily just Millie, but sometimes it would be Millie and Layla.
And in regards to the Rosenbaums, did you ever receive any complaints from Ms. Lambert about concerns or bruises or injuries that the girls would return with?
Yes, ma'am.
About how many times did you receive complaints from Ms. Lambert about injuries to the girls when they would return from visitations with the Rosenbaums?
It's only one incident that comes to mind where she was really concerned.
And tell me about that incident.
They had came back from a visit. She had taken pictures and she had brought them up to the office because she was concerned about there was little marks on Millie's leg, I believe. I think it was Millie's.
And I'm showing you what's been already taken into state's evidence, state's exhibit number 121, and it's behind you.
Oh,
120. And who's that a photograph of?
I want to say that's Millie. I want to say that's Millie.
Make sure you keep your voice up.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to look and talk at the same time. I want to say that that's Millie, I believe.
And state's exhibit number 119. Who's that?
That's Layla.
And was this one of the photographs that she brought to the office? Ms. Lambert?
I believe so.
Do you recall when that was that she brought those photographs to the office in regards to her concerns about injuries to the girls?
I'm not sure exactly what date it was.
And looking at a document help to refresh your recollection as to that date?
Yes, ma'am.
You can look through that and see if that helps you refresh your recollection as to the date.
Doesn't say what this.
I think this is better.
I think that's the same one. I think it was July 9th.
After Ms. Lambert expressed her concerns, what did you do as a caseworker?
Well, once the pictures were given to me, I spoke with Ms. Brown about her concerns.
Ms. Brown or Ms.
I'm
Lambert?
sorry, Ms. Lambert.
And what did Ms. Lambert express to you in regards to her concerns?
And she felt like it was a matter of supervision.
Did you do anything else in regards to Ms. Lambert's concerns?
Honestly, just addressed the issue. Just spoke with both parties. I spoke with Ms. Lambert and got her concerns. Discussed it with my supervisor and had a conversation with Ms. Rosenbaum.
And what, if anything, did Ms. Rosenbaum say to you when you expressed your concerns?
She was receptive of it. I didn't receive any pushback.
Was there anything else that you did in regards to that issue?
No, ma'am.
At some point were the girls placed with the Rosenbaums?
Yes, ma'am.
How long after the complaints by Ms. Lambert, how much time passed between the complaints of Ms. Lambert and the girls being placed with the Rosenbaums?
May have been a few weeks.
During the time that the girls were with Ms. Lambert, outside of the indication she's made about bruises that were coming back, the girls were coming back with after visits with the Rosenbaums, did you observe any other bruises or injuries to the children?
While with Ms. Lambert, no.
At some point in time, how do you know that the girls are now being placed with the Rosenbaums? Who made that decision? How did that decision happen?
We were actually instructed by our judge to move them.
And what judge is that? If you remember.
I'm not sure which one it was.
Was it, at that time, was the plan to place the girls with the Rosenbaums? Let me ask, after Ms. Lambert's complaint, what was the plan as far as visitation and placement with the Rosenbaums with defects?
We were going to continue the visitation just to give more time to, I guess, learn how to better manage the children in regards to like supervision and making sure they're playing safe, I guess.
And were there any, resources or anything of that nature provided to the defendants as far as supervision and dealing with the kids after having the complaints by Ms. Lambert?
Nothing was put in place, but I do know Ms. Lambert offered her assistance to, she could call her whenever she needed help or advice about something.
And to your knowledge, did that ever occur?
Yes, they had open communication.
And at some point, you got an order for the children to be placed?
Yes, ma'am.
And who removed the children from Ms. Lambert's home to take them to the Rosenbaum's home?
That would be me.
And did you observe the children on the day that you removed them from Ms. Lambert's home?
Oh, yes, I saw them.
Okay. And did you observe any marks, injuries, or bruises on them?
Not that I remember.
And during the time, do you recall what day it was that the girls were placed with the Rosenbaums?
I don't remember exactly what the exact day it was, no.
And I want to back up a bit. When they were with the Lamberts, you said they had overnight visits.
Yes, I am.
How long would those overnight visits last?
They would usually be on the weekends, like a Friday and a Saturday, and they would usually come back Sunday.
So what day would they pick up?
It would be Friday.
And what day would they drop off?
Sunday.
Would they go back to Miss Lambert's house in between that Friday and that Sunday?
No, they would usually have them for the overnight.
For the entire weekend?
Mm-hmm.
So once they get to the Rosenbaum's home, who's having visitations?
That would still be the biological parents and Miss Banks.
And how often are those visitations occurring?
The visits are supposed to be once a week. Honestly, as often as we could have them. It just depends on if the parents were available.
Okay. Now let me just ask you, when the Rosenbaums were having visits, when the girls were with the Lamberts, did you ever receive any complaints or concerns raised by either Jennifer Rosenbaum or Joseph Rosenbaum that when they would get the kids from either Miss Lambert or Miss Brown, that they would have injuries, bruisings, or anything of that nature?
Not that I remember.
And if there were complaints or concerns raised by the Rosenbaum, would you have noted it in the defects reference?
I would think so, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And have you had an opportunity to go over the defects records during that course of time?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see any notation where the defendants were raising concerns about injuries when the girls are with the Browns or with the Lamberts?
No, ma'am.
Now, when Millie was, I'm sorry, I'm bouncing all this a
No,
lot.
you're fine.
When Millie was with the Lamberts, did Ms. Lambert ever raise any concerns about Millie lying?
Not that I remember. I'm just not sure.
When the girls were with Ms. Lambert, did they continue with the therapy that they were having with Pathways?
I'm honestly not sure if it has stopped by then, because I know they had just started, but I know they didn't continue for long. So possibly.
To your knowledge, were they still having counseling on September the 24th of 2015?
I don't believe so.
And if there is a notation in the defects records concerning counseling on September the 24th of 2015, what would that be in regards to?
That could be just something that they have completed already, or that they have done and may not be doing it now. Maybe just like a summary.
A summary of, I guess, services they've received since coming into custody?
Yes, ma'am.
And is your supervisor, who was your supervisor at that time?
Miss Tamara Warner.
And does Miss Warner, does she have direct contact with the girls as your supervisor?
She can.
Okay. Did she have direct contact with the girls as your supervisor? Let me ask it a different way.
I'm not sure.
Was Ms. Warner responsible for making any scheduled appointments, counseling, doctor's appointments for the girls at all?
No, ma'am.
If she received any information about any therapy or any doctor's appointments, where would she get that information from?
It would come from me.
During the course of time when the girls were with Ms. Lambert, did you have occasion to visit them in the Lambert's home?
Yes, ma'am.
And how did they appear?
They seem fine. Like, normal.
Did you ever have any concerns about their safety during the time they were with Ms. Lambert?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever observe any bruising or injury during the time when they were with Ms. Lambert?
Just the ones that were pointed out, nothing other than the ones that we discussed.
And would you do any examination of the girls when they were with Ms. Lambert?
Yes, ma'am.
And who would you examine and how would you do that examination?
Well, with Layla, I would undress her, especially since she was nonverbal, so I would undress her. Millie, I would examine her as well, just looking her over, seeing if she had any marks or anything.
And did you ever, when you undress the girls, did you ever find any injuries of any kind?
No, ma'am.
And I'm showing you state exhibit number 45. This mark right here on Layla's stomach, did you ever observe that during the time that she was with the Lamberts?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Once the girls were in the home with the Rosenbaums, how often would you see them or visit with them?
I would visit them once a month, but I would see them often.
During the times that you would see them or visit them, would Ms. Rosenbaum ever raise, or Mr. Rosenbaum ever raise any concerns that they might have?
As far as
the girls?
Yeah, if they had any concerns, they were good about noting them or speaking to me about them.
Did they ever raise any concerns about Millie lying?
I honestly don't remember any huge issue about lying.
Did they ever raise any concerns about Layla having any rage issues or behavior issues?
Layla could get upset. That was a issue prior to them being placed.
Okay. And in regards to the Rosenbaums, did they ever raise that as a concern?
I don't remember having a conversation about it.
Do you recall the Rosenbaums ever raising a concern about Layla and her holding her breath or gasping for air?
No, ma'am.
Did you recall them ever raising any health issues or concerns they may have had for either one of the girls?
No, ma'am.
When the girls were with the Rosenbaums, how would you and the defendants communicate?
We communicated over the phone, through text message, in person.
Did you ever receive photographs of the girls from
Yes.
the Rosenbaums?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that unusual for a foster parent to send you pictures of the kids that were in their home?
No, ma'am. Some would, some wouldn't.
And what types of photographs would you get of the girls from? First of all, were they coming from Jennifer Rosenbaum or Joseph Rosenbaum?
Miss Rosenbaum.
Who would you say you had the most contact with out of the Rosenbaums?
Miss Rosenbaum.
Did you ever meet Mr. Rosenbaum?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
And
Sorry.
about how many times did you meet him?
I'm not sure how many times I met him, but it'd been a few times.
And on what occasions and where would you have met him?
We've met at my office, and I've met him a couple of times. He would be at home sometimes when I come by.
And when you would visit in their homes or when you would receive pictures of the girls, how did they appear?
They look to be happy.
During the time that the girls were in placement with the defendants, were they receiving any type of counseling?
I don't believe so.
And if they were receiving counseling, who would have set that up or scheduled those counseling appointments?
I would have been the one to arrange them.
Do you recall ever setting up or scheduling any counseling appointments?
Not that I remember. If I do believe, I think the counseling had ended by then.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
Yeah, it's still too low. I'm sorry. Do I need to repeat it?
During the time that the girls with the Rosenbaums, to your knowledge, did they ever go on any trips?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, where did they go on a trip to, or trips to?
I know one time they went out of town for a wedding. I believe it was Dakota. I think that was only out of town visit.
And how did you know that the girls had gone on that trip?
Because you had to get approval to go out of state.
Outside of getting approval, did you get anything else to confirm that they had gone on that trip?
Not that I remember, just that they were going, the dates that they were going to be gone.
Did you ever see receive any photographs from that trip?
I don't remember if I received photos from that trip or not.
Did you ever talk to Millie about that trip?
I don't remember discussing the trip.
During the time, and if you need to look at the records, I can let you look at it. Do you recall having a visit with the Rosenbaums on August the 5th of 2015?
I'm sure. I'm not sure.
You need to look at the records?
Yes, I'm not sure that's the exact date, but I'm sure I saw them in August. Okay, August 19th. Okay. I was looking at the wrong date. Okay.
Do you recall that visit on August the 5th?
Yes, ma'am.
And where was that visit at?
This was done at the home. With the Rosenbaums, I'm sorry.
And at that time, did you visit with the children?
Yes, ma'am.
And tell me about what you did during that visit and what you observed.
Let's see, we discussed.
And if you could just look at it once you refresh your recollection, then look up, don't read from the document.
Okay.
Does that help you refresh your recollection as to that visit on the 5th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what did you do and what did you observe?
My job would come in, come in, greet everyone. I would usually speak with Ms. Rosenbaum first, and then I would speak with the girls separately. And during this time, we were discussing, schooling, getting the girls into daycare. So she was saying they were getting ready to enroll them at Ola Academy.
To your knowledge, had they been already enrolled?
I think she was in the process of getting them enrolled.
And that was on August the 5th?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you familiar with Ola Academy?
Wait, like that?
Had you ever heard of it? Did you know
Yes,
anything
ma'am.
about it? And how were you familiar with Ola Academy?
Just heard about it. I didn't have a child there or anything.
After getting that information from Ms. Rosenbaum about enrolling in daycare, what else did you do during that visit?
Just spoke with my usual routine, spoke with the girls. After speaking with Ms. Rosenbaum, I speak with them privately. Speak with Millie. Layla would be there. I would undress and check Layla. I would always look over Millie and just talk with them and see how they're doing, how they're adjusting, how they're getting along with them.
And when you undressed Layla, did you find any injuries or bruises on her?
With Layla, no.
What about with Millie?
Millie had a small scratch that day.
When you saw that scratch, what did you do, if anything?
I asked about it, asked what had happened.
And what did she tell you?
That she had fell while they were playing around the pool, and she had fell and scraped her head.
And who's giving you this information? Is it Millie or the defendant, Jennifer Rosenbaum?
If I'm not mistaken, that one came from Ms. Rosenbaum.
And that injury that you saw, is it different from the injuries that were depicted in State's Exhibits 121 and 120? The injury that you saw on August the 5th, was it different from these injuries?
Yeah, it was on her. It was on her forehead.
Did you speak to Millie at all about the scratch on her forehead?
I'm sure I did.
Would you have noted it in your records?
Yes, ma'am.
If you could look to see if you did.
Okay, I didn't.
And what did Millie tell you?
No, I was saying I didn't.
You did
I
not?
haven't.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I just want to go back. You said on the August the 5th, there was a discussion about daycare.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your records, were they already enrolled or were they being enrolled? If you could,
According to the records, they were being enrolled.
and I just want to,
Yeah, they've been enrolled.
so were they being enrolled or have they been enrolled?
So she has been enrolled.
So, and where did you get that information that they had been enrolled in Ola Academy?
Ms. Rosenbaum.
Do you recall during the month of August, whether or not you were ever informed by Ms. Rosenbaum about having, first, let me start with this one, that Layla had fallen down the stairs and had hurt herself and had injuries?
I do remember, I'm not sure if it was in August, but I do remember her telling me that Layla had fell on the stairs.
Let me ask you, was this before Layla had a cast or after Layla had a cast that she talked to you about her falling down the stairs?
This is why she had a cast.
Okay. Do you recall when she got her cast?
In October, I believe.
So in August, were there any reports of Layla having fallen down the stairs made to you?
Not that I remember.
Do you recall in August, specifically on August the 12th, Ms. Rosenbaum reporting to you having to take Layla to the hospital to receive IV due to a stomach virus?
I don't remember having to get an IV. No, ma'am.
Are those types of things that should be reported to DFACS?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And to your knowledge and according to your records, were those things reported to you? And you can look through to see.
Okay. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay. Let me ask you, as far as daycare is concerned, let me move forward. When do you recall your next visit being with the Rosenbaums?
It would have probably been in September.
Okay. And where would that visit have occurred?
At the home.
And that's the Rosenbaum's home?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And tell me about that. And if you need, would you need to look at your records to help refresh your recollection as to
I
what?
remember all of our visits.
Let me just ask her, let me give you something.
it's gonna be a while longer, judges, so we want to end for the evening, we can, because I have quite a bit more to go over with Ms. White.
Love you, Mike.
All right, why don't we just take our break then now, and we'll come back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Thank you for your work today, and we'll see you at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Okay, see you all tomorrow.
Thank you, Judge.